Thank you so much, guys. We'll hear more about your breakdown soon, I am sure. But I am joined here by the victorious Exileh and Vizicsacsi after a commanding final game against Giants. Now, my first question is for you, Vizicsacsi. You showed a really rough performance when we saw you in the spring playoffs, but this time around, you absolutely crushed it. I just wanted to know what changed for you between spring and summer.
I just think we have a more solid roster right now. We are good as a team together, we have good synergy, and we enjoy playing with each other, which was not really the case in my last 2 playoffs. We always had team troubles, and I think we didn't have good practice either, so that was just showing off on stage as well. And for me, I tried really hard the previous playoffs to try to contribute as much as I can to the victory, but this time I didn't over-focus on it, but instead trusted my team that they can help me out and we can win together.
I mean, you guys definitely showed a game 1 totally in your favor. They were a little bit closer, but of course in that final game, you guys brought it back one more time. Now over to you, Exileh. Win or lose in the coming week, you guys have guaranteed a spot at Krakow. How does it feel for you in your first split to be guaranteed a spot on that massive stage?
I think it's pretty great, actually, to prove that we are top 4, especially because we had a really rough time in the first weeks, and we just showed that we can improve like this much, and this means a lot.
Yeah. And I think, obviously, everyone saw it today. Looking ahead, of course, at your coming matchup in the semifinals, you guys are now guaranteed to face G2, as this is the lowest seed coming out. Are you nervous at all about the G2 matchup? Chachi, we'll start with you.
No, I wouldn't say we are nervous, since we even played G2 in scrims as well, and we don't think that they are like invincible or anything. They have their weak points as well, and I think if we practice good and we prepare good strategies, we can beat them.
Absolutely. And of course, Exileh, what are your thoughts?
I think so too. It's just we practice a lot, and then we have a really good chance to beat them. So it's really up to us.
All right. Well, good to hear you guys still coming in confident after that series win. It's got to feel good. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
We're going to head back over to the analyst desk to further break that set down.
Well then, so to summarize, looking ahead to the semifinal versus G2, where are the weaknesses then? Because Vizicsacsi versus Expect, that might be a good matchup for them.
Yeah, I think Chachi has the potential there. Expect is still making a name for himself here in Europe, and we've seen that when Chachi actually has things go his way, he can kind of play things out. I still see a couple of weaknesses when it comes to like not getting exploited by just having bad matchups. When it looks to the counter matchup, he needs then a lot of resources. He needs a lot of attention at that time to put the matchup back in his favor. So that's one area that G2 may be a little stronger with coming at them than Giants were.
Like also, there's more than just the top lane in
course.
this matchup. We have Sven,
Really?
Sven and Mithy.
There's one lane.
That's
Oh,
pretty crazy.
really? Well, we have Sven and Mithy versus Veritas and Hylissang. I think that's kind of goes
I
even
want
there.
to jump into that in just a second. I do want to give out the MVP award for the series. Vizicsacsi, we just heard from him. Exileh could have been it as well. Great performances from the solo laners overall, which tipped the scales in the favor of the Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have been talking about Chachi so much this split here. He had a rough start. I have. We, as a group, have talked a lot about Chachi as well, because he's actually been really, really good. A lot of players even voted for him like as one of the best top laners we have right now, because he's a big carry for Unicorns. They need him to be a carry, and he was in this series. Whenever Maxlore didn't get to snowball SmittyJ, then Chachi just took over.
It's interesting you say Deficio says that. He says a lot of things, Sankux. You'll realize that being around.
We as a team.
We always the royal we to cover up. It's okay, Deficio, don't worry. But
Wow.
Chachi,
But you don't think so? You disagree?
hey, well, it's fine. Don't worry. We'll continue this tomorrow in our podcast.
Good,
it's
good.
good. We'll say a lot of things, I'm sure.
I really
Chachi, I think you could have given this perhaps to Exileh, looking at perhaps carry performances from individual games. I think Chachi as a whole in this series was doing a little bit more for the team at times, so I think it's fairly deserved.
Yeah, it definitely is. And now I want to get back into that matchup, obviously, that we just touched on. And the bracket, the Unicorns of Love, due to being a lower seed, will advance to face G2. That means that Splyce will be playing the winner of H2K Fnatic, which I hope they're super excited about. And for Worlds implications, this means that Giants walks away with 20 championship points. They will be in the regional qualifier, but they will be the lowest seed, so all is not lost there. So what do we want to talk about first? About H2K or Fnatic versus Splyce? I suggest we start with the UOL versus G2. You guys started to talk about the bottom lane. How much of an impact will that make from the bottom lane performance you've seen today?
Huge. Obviously, Sven and Mithi is the best 2v2 lane we have in Europe and in North America combined, and they can definitely challenge a lot of other bot lanes around the world. So I think there's a massive difference between them and the bot lane from Unicorns of Love. I also think Perks versus Exile, Perks, as long as he understands that he doesn't need to try and kill Exile and just let actually the bot lane do a lot of work together with Trick, then I think Perks and G2 will have a really solid foundation to win this matchup. Like, this is going to be tough for Unicorns.
I think it's not only Perks you have to look at versus Exile. I think it's both like the jungle duo and jungle mid duo. Like, I think Trick and the Perks was like, that was like what won G2 the last split of LCS, right? So I think they're way stronger 2v2, and I feel like that's the strongest point. Actually, it wasn't today, it was more the 2v2 top today from UOL, but mainly throughout the split, I feel like it was the 2v2 mid that they've relied a lot on. So I think that G2 will match that even better.
And I think the biggest discrepancy in that jungle matchup is when you look at consistency. Trick is like on par with his performances and player of the game to like potentially back-to-back be the MVP of the split. Obviously that voting hasn't come in yet, but when you look at his performances, whereas Move is a guy that goes like 0-10 or 10-0, and like he'll crush it when snowball Exile, or he'll just have a game where he falls flat, whereas Trick is there every single game putting in a good performance.
Yeah. I think it's on Chachi, honestly, to carry Unicorns to the finals if they want to make it all the way, because I only see the top lane as like a weak lane for G2, and I say that like not like, oh, it's a terrible lane. I think Expect is still a fine top lane. I just don't think he's as good as some of the other ones, and he's not that important for the team. So if Chachi and Move together, as you said, the 2v2 with the disco as well, can shut down Expect and then snowball that into other lanes, that's kind of how Unicorns can win.
NA is about to start in about 10 minutes. They're setting up. This is their way of telling us, come on, get on with it.
Flicking the lights.
I think it was more telling that Expect doesn't have to disco, and then
if he doesn't disco, you know, Gigi's gonna win.